We have a big show today, and I'll tell you, there's so much to cover. You know, there's insights we have on this election and the significance of what it means. We cannot let up. We've got to go. Remember that story in the Bible about the arrows? One king had to smite those arrows down. We can't go boom, boom, boom. Well, it's done. Back to normal. Now's the time to take ground. By the way, I am sleeping a little easier now that Donald Trump is in office. And that means that I'm grateful to patriots like Mike Lindell, who had his business attacked, literally shrunk and assaulted by credit card companies, banks that refuse to support him. And I'm behind Mike Lindell, but Mike has great products. Nobody can beat the slippers. I wear them. I have two different sets. I have sets for different locations. But now I'm looking at the flannel sheets because winter's coming in, and I want to get those flannel sheets, those comfortable, smooth, silky, warm flannel sheets for as low as $59.98 for a queen size. And the slippers, $79.98. But when you use the Lance promo code, mypillow.com, but use the code Lance, and everything comes down. The prices go down. The mattress topper. Now, I'm a big fan of mattress toppers for $99. You can put like a couple of inches of specially designed foam on your mattress. It saves the life of your mattress, but it's so much work. It's like, what did you say, floating on a cloud?
Yeah, it's like sleeping on a cloud. And I just want to say, it's normally $219, and when you use promo code Lance, that's when it's $99.
I'm sorry. I'm giving you the prices with the promo code. I forgot. Okay, so as low as $99 with the promo code. Go to mypillow.com, promo code LANCE, Lance, and you're supporting Mike, and you're going to get the benefit of that. It's Christmas, folks. 1 year, I went and got my family bathrobes, the towels, like the 6-part towel set for like, it's like for $29 or something. Man, and it's rich. And what he did, this is heavy, hefty bathrobes. I throw the bathrobes as a blanket on the bottom of my bed because Annabelle has it freezing cold at night. So I want you guys to all be comfortable. Go to Mike Lindell's MyPillow page, mypillow.com, and use promo code Lance. And let's get into this show. You don't want to miss it. Welcome to the Lance Wallnau Show. This is the show that isn't ashamed anymore to say they can accuse us of being Christian nationalists. Well, call us what you will. We are the patriots that are believers, and I think that was the decisive factor. Something happened in America that is moving it to the right, to a right mind, I might add. So if you want to say this is ground zero for Christian nationalism, do it, because we are in the battle now, and we're going to see what happens. But I believe if you go to Twitter, now Twitter, otherwise known as X, I know a lot of you guys don't do this, but just go there, because I'm going to be reading from that account, and I'm getting a lot of traffic over there because I get to write to you guys there, and Facebook, and I'm going to start interacting more with Facebook too. But Facebook does suppress us a lot. The Elon doesn't. So Mercedes, my concern is, if I put stuff on Facebook that is my Christian content, I'm concerned that it starts to suppress me as my overall account. I mean, look how few people I'm talking to out of 1 million.
It's not necessarily the Christian, it's the political. I pulled all the stats because we have our partner event coming up this weekend, and you can see a dramatic tapering down on Facebook leading up to the election. It's really actually quite fascinating.
Yeah, we did election night coverage, which normally would have had, like on Zoom or on other, not on Zoom, but on YouTube and other places, we had like, 70,000 views. Over there on Facebook, it's like 40.
Oh, yeah. I did this unique thing where I think I said, it's time to pray. I think it was pray, vote, and stand. And that did not get wide reach on my page. And then I said, just pray and stand. And that went to like 700 or 800 likes. The other one only had 100 likes. So just the word vote. I think what I personally think the algorithms are if you're conservative, you're known conservative, and you have election, vote, certain trigger words, it suppresses that content specifically.
This is a Facebook thing. I'm sorry. And I think I still have algorithmic shadow banning going on from just, I'm a lower level, tier person on Twitter. I got 100,000 people there, but the thing should be up to 500,000 by now. So I'm going to go over to X. Go there now. Go to @LanceWallnau, @LanceWallnau, Join me over there. We're going to start. I want to do my broadcast covering that. My first comment there is my thoughts go out to Rob Reiner, and I put that there on purpose because Rob Reiner had a whole documentary on the dangers of Christian nationalism and zeroed in on Seven Mountains and dominionism and guys like me. Understand what this message is on dominionism, is that Some ideas are going to be prevalent in education or in government. I believe the Word of God is a safe guide for wisdom. Wisdom. It doesn't mean you have to be a forced convert to Christianity, but the wisdom that is in here is indispensable to the ordering of a flourishing society. It's Christian influence that says that you should have rights when you're arrested, that you should be judged by your peers. If you had Bill Federer on now, we would be able to go through a history of all the wisdom from Deuteronomy, et cetera, that has to do with how to create a just and fair society. And so the reason why you're being sworn in with a Bible, for instance, and even the president gets, an oath on the Bible, is because the ideas that are founded and grounded in Scripture are the fundamental genius of a flourishing culture, which honors the dignity of every individual to protect life and to protect freedom and to create a place for freedom of thought rather than the tyranny of suppression of voices. If we had lost this election, I have no doubt that if the left had its way, it would go the way of pure, intolerant Marxism, demanding conformity, just like on the college campuses, just like in the corporate boardroom right now, where you have the DEI conformity and anxiety about not giving into the ideology, by the way, like a religious system on the left. People don't realize it's one form of faith or another that you're really going to be enshrining in your laws and in your civic order. I say the attack that has come against us, that's been repudiated and refuted in this election, is that we want to return to traditional values. You can hear the left freaking out. The male patriarchy. Yeah, we really believe that men have a role in society and in their families, and that men take responsibility. When they do their job properly as husbands and fathers, they are to protect their family and their children. So that we had a movement of mama bears. They were the ones who were going to the schools and banging the table and saying, get the drag queen out, get the pornography, get the gender confusion out. It's not what my child should be exposed to. And the men kind of were, it wasn't a papa bear movement, it was a mama bear. And now the men are actually coming back. Trump did something shocking in two ways in the American system with the election. One, he put his arms around working class Americans and said, Latino, Black, Asian, white, it doesn't matter what your skin color is. You need to be able to participate in a democracy that isn't built to serve the interests of an elite that are controlling the country with open borders and endless wars, agendas that were never in the interest of the American citizen. I'm here to restore it back so that the working class American is the priority, not the agenda of radicalists, radical extremists, or global empire people that want to dominate all other nations and interfere with what they're doing. The working class realigned with the Republican Party. This is going to be a problem the left has to figure out. Democrats are now having a real sober session. I promise you, what they're saying is we can't afford to have the radical baggage of crazy left-wing ideas. We will never be able to have an audience with this going. Now that Trump has done a realignment, and let's face it, it's a Trumpian alignment. That means it doesn't sustain itself once that personality is no longer there as a galvanizing force. So we have 2 years, 3 years, 4 years with which to impact the institutions. And I want to go there today. Yeah, it's the Seven Mountain story. Your problem right now is Harvard needed a day off. I was going to post the article. Harvard needed a day. Why? Because the students, the brightest, the smartest elites of America get into Harvard, and it's the trauma of how to cope with this news. What does this mean for Palestinians? What does this mean for transgenderism? Well, it means that the universities have been invaded to such an extent that our future leaders are under the wicked indoctrination of crazy ideas that when put before the mass of the voting public, they vote against it. They say, no, we don't want that. But the university and the youth are being indoctrinated right now. This is a higher priority, Mr. President, than anything else. We've got to recapture the university system so that you have a balance of persuasion, meaning let like Charlie Kirk goes on the campuses and he says, if you disagree with me, go to the front of the line. I want to hear you first. We need to have teachers that have conservative and well-rounded, well-grounded global worldviews that take truth and put it out there in the face of ideologic crusades funded by left-wing funding in the faculty and in the donor pool. And we need to have an equal debate. If the debate is equal, we're America. I'm not saying that we suppress crazy ideas. You need crazy ideas in order to refine good ideas. What you can't do is take over and ideologically capture the university. 92% of faculty on colleges voted for the Marxist agenda. You have to get this to a 50-50. We have to recapture the sanity of the institution. And I'm serious about this. So anyway, my heart goes out to Rob Reiner because he is an evidence of the crazy pathology of California, fearing that the Christian movement or Christian nationalism or traditional values is actually going to make America what? Make America sane again. That would be a good starting point. Second article I got there is, if you're on X, so go to Lance Wallnau, at Lance Wallnau, on Twitter. I know you don't like Twitter, but since Elon redeemed it, we're gonna bring it back. Elon's got it now. The guy's sunk $4 billion into giving you freedom of speech. Least you can do is open up a free account and talk with me and talk with others. I want to get that account up to 200,000. America's moving to the right. Bring that graphic up, please. Now, if you go on the app, this is a Washington Post story, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to post stuff where you have to buy and subscribe to the crazy guys at the Washington Post. So I do. I subscribe to them. So when I post it, I think you're going to be able to read it. But no, the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, I got to do screenshots. So I'm giving you a screenshot here. But if you could look at that, you see those red dots? And if you're listening to the podcast, here's what we're doing. The red dots are not dots. They're arrows. Oh, what an interesting graphic this is. This is where AI is such a gift to mankind, because this is a move, a showing of all the 3,143 counties in the United States, and whether they move to the left, stayed still, or moved to the right. And the arrow tells you how far to the right they went. And you know what we're looking at? We're looking at a migration pattern, Mercedes, of thousands of counties moving to the right. The only place it didn't happen, and we have some circles here, we have a circle, a real cluster of motion in New York City. Oh my gosh, 40% of Jews in America that would traditionally be voting here, there, independent. They're on the side of sanity, moving to the right, probably because of the pro-Gaza, terrorist campus uprisings, which did a great job for helping Trump make the argument, this is crazy. And so you see those arrows are clustered. The only place, curiously enough, that the left had a stronghold that went to the left further is around Stacey Abrams' Atlanta precincts. So where you've got strong concentrated blue money, you've got the move to the left. That's Warnock's County, and et cetera. So you could see that that's the Atlanta suburbs, were the one place where Harris improved out of the whole ocean of motion to the right. But look at those right arrows, folks. If you can see it, the podcast shows it's like a flight pattern. Everything's moving towards this direction. I say it's it's almost like an ideologic graph of how this is this is our moment, frankly. Because if a house is swept clean, Jesus said, it is in danger of being recaptured. And I promise you, the oligarchs, the CIA, the FBI, the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, all the entrenched bad apples that got into the system that was rotten, that came against Donald Trump in order to impeach him twice, in order to bankrupt him, in order to lock him up for foreign. Make no doubt that if the left had the map right now and it was moving blue to the left, there would be a sentencing of Donald Trump happening, and no man is above the law. No man is above the law. That's all you'd be hearing, right, coming out from all the oracles of media. No man is above the law. But now we're finding out that the law was corrupted. It was in the interests of an oligarchy that had an agenda to silence Trump. And now that's been wiped out for a moment. We must occupy, or 7 more wicked spirits, the Bible says, come in for an institutional clampdown, and this so that this never happens again. We'll be right back.
We're going to take a quick break to talk to you about something that's quite frankly delicious. And that is this delectable coffee cake, cinnamon, brown sugar, pecans. You've heard us talking about it on the show, so Ladies, I'm standing here in the kitchen because, like you, I'm always thinking about what am I doing for Thanksgiving? What am I gonna have for my guests? And this is something that is just so easy. You just place it right down. There's no baking, there's no cooking. And so as your guests are mingling, you've got a cake that is ready to go. And so you can get this beautiful coffee cake at lancewallnau.com/cakes. And just remember, there's only 500 of these that we have available, and you have to get it before November 15th. So go check it out, lancewallnau.com/cakes. All right, now let's get back to Lance.
Closing in on 31 million downloads. We're not quite up there yet with the big guys, but we're working with you, with Wallnau's Warriors are rising, and we're a movement. This Christian nationalists, call it what you will. We're taking ground, and I would say that that now more than ever we need to be looking at the heat map. Go to at Lance Wallnau on Twitter. The artist formerly known as Twitter is X. Go to at Lance Wallnau, because I'm scrolling through today's talking points. If you want to know what the flow for the show is, I post it right there on Twitter so you can follow along with me. All right, so now I want you to look at the new spiritual heat map. This is from Elon Musk, by the way. I wrote here, it's too bad our evangelical leaders were so obsessed with Christian nationalism, they missed the boat. One of them is a friend of mine, and I didn't respond to him because I didn't want to. Nobody was responding in his feed. But his response to the election, imagine this. Donald Trump wins. You have 100 different significant observations you can make about what the moment is, why it happened, where we're going. And the only thing my brother was focused on is, I sure hope the Trump prophets don't claim this is fulfillment of what they said. Obsessed with Trump prophets. Obsessed with people on, a Trump prophet. They hope they don't claim this as them, their success. Like that's your number one observation? Yeah. All right. Well, here's the spiritual heat map. All right, there it is. See that? Elon Musk posted it. So if you were looking at a map of America, for you podcasters, go to my Twitter account when you get home and take a look at it. It's a vastly expanded red zone. Now, we've seen this before, the rural versus the city vote. We know that. But what does it tell you from a spiritual perspective? It tells you that principalities and powers concentrate where populations are the most concentrated. It's kind of an interesting thing how when Babel gets built and everybody's in one location, it's easier. You go to Washington, D.C., it's a spiritual environment. You go out to Hollywood, it's a spiritual environment. It's as though the spirit realm comes down upon the high concentrations of people and then gets into the institutions there as much as possible to create a blue zone. But what I'm showing you here is the expansion of the red. And now look at this. The realization is, if I showed you the updated map of California, you'd see it. It's only L.A., San Francisco. It's the cities where this is almost a heat map of where the cities are, which tells you. Mario Murillo is saying this. He's saying the next phase of his evangelism work is to go into the strongholds of cities. And the Lord told him to do this before the election. And so San Francisco, boom. L.A., boom. New York City, boom. Trump went to Madison Square Garden, which was like a spiritual act itself. And surprisingly, the big flip is New York City is moving towards Trump. I mean, that makes sense. They're like a 40% win of Republican voters in New York City. It's a big movement. So these blue areas are the concentration of power and money in the city areas. And this becomes a new awareness for us that we've got to go there with the gospel, because the gospel will actually have an effect on the atmosphere. It's hard to explain, but when Philip went to Samaria, bam, it affected the atmosphere, and the whole city was filled with joy when that took place. So there's your spiritual heat map. Gives you an idea. It doesn't mean that we've won. Just means that everything's moving in our direction in terms of the ideological battle. Now is the church ready for America's great awakening? It started in 2016, and it's really three phases. Go to the next Twitter post I have, the three phases. It's like the three. I heard somebody say this once with Star Wars. It said it starts with Star Wars, then it goes to The Empire Strikes Back, and then it's the Return of the Jedi. And what you've got here is you got Trump arising in 2016 with his movement. And now the institutions, the Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, the Department of Defense, all the internal apparatus of the DAs, the Soros-funded state apparatus and judicial apparatus trying to take him out, to kneecap him, to remove him from office, to prosecute him out of office, going down with guns drawn at Mar-a-Lago, to go collect the paperwork that he had there as a president, to indict him on the mismanagement of paper and lock him up. So we watched that. That's institutional corruption. Tucker Carlson did an interesting interview with Steve Bannon talking about demonic reality. He says, "Hey, I'm not a Christian. I consider myself kind of," but he said he's not like he doesn't have a high respect for pastors. He said just his own experience. He grew up Episcopalian. I understand where he's coming from, but he was attacked by demons one night. His side was split open with claw marks. He woke up with blood, and he said, "I don't do that. I'm not one of those guys that neurotically scratch. I don't even have nails to do that." He had a dream he was attacked and wakes up with bloody sheets and literal scratch marks on his side. That guy has been used by God in a remarkable way. I mean, Russell Brand, boom, used by God. And I think that we could say that there's a sense in which the Lord raised up with Elon Musk, with RFK Jr., even with Joe Rogan at the last minute. There was, in a sense, a recontextualizing of who Trump was away from the manipulation of legacy media, and people saw the human side of the guy and said, "This is Hitler? Mm-hmm. This is your dictator? He sounds like a regular Joe. I can have a beer with him. I don't get what you're talking about." There's a crack now in the wall of the deception. He starts off as a new hope. Then the Empire Strikes Back with Biden. And that's from his speech, that red speech. Remember that speech where he's in Philadelphia? And what did he call you, America? America is under threat of dangerous MAGA extremists. We saw them on January 6th. Dangerous MAGA extremists. Nothing about the riots that took place in America with the burning of cities and the killing of police officers. Nothing about the $2 billion worth of damage. America's under threat of Donald Trump and his MAGA extremists. Well, that was their striking back at Trump. 2 assassination attempts, one that almost took his head off. It was the 2 impeachments. It was the 4 trials. It was the 30 days after this election sentencing for 30 months in prison or 5 years in prison or whatever for his the setup in New York City where they could get a DA who goes in getting elected saying, "We're going to take Trump out. We're going to take this citizen down. We'll find the crime and we'll take him out." Trump is back. And their fear will be the revenge of the Jedi. Oh, the revenge. They're all upset about the revenge. There ain't no revenge. There's no revenge even in a Judeo-Christian worldview. What there is justice. Because these oligarchs, these wealthy elites that went into the system of power in the post-World War II America, gradually, from the CIA to the FBI. Do you know there's a lot of real belief right now? If I was to say to you that Kennedy was assassinated by Oswald and there was no connection at all to the CIA or to our government, many of you would say, "Well, I don't believe that." Why is the file still being sealed? You know why? Because it would create such a distrust in government. If it was ever brought out that there was certain information suppressed, certain connections delineated, certain manipulations of data, so that the case was made about Oswald, but Oswald perhaps wasn't acting alone. The reality is there is a corruption in our Department of Justice. There's a corruption in the FBI. Remember the laptop. I want to remind you of this stuff. I'm not stuck in the past. When the laptop surfaced of Hunter, and the data was there regarding $10 to $15 million of transaction. Forget the porn and forget the crack. It's the transactions that the family engaged in through Hunter to put money back into the old man and his uncle's pockets. That information was there. The intelligence agencies knew it, and they suppressed it. They knew it during the impeachments and suppressed it. The evidence that could have exonerated Trump, suppressed. That's rot. That's the reason why there's questions about who was behind the assassination attempt in Trump at Butler, Pennsylvania. Why did that kid, who's 19 or 20 years old, have multiple devices with encrypted connections going all the way to Europe and other locations? Why? Why can't they crack that? Why don't they know? I don't understand why it is they could trace 600 or 800 or 1,000 people, grandmas included, that on January 6th wandered into the Capitol, no guns blazing, no firebombs, wandered in and walked out, prosecute, lock them up, insurrectionists. How could they trace them? They had their phones. They knew how to crack the data. They knew they took Tucker Carlson's private texts. We had an interview earlier today with the head of Moms for Liberty, and she's saying she realized that their government was surveilling her phone calls, her private texts, her own, so that she's aware that everything she says and does has a record the government spies on. How come we don't know? Trump asked the question. How is it we don't know what the encrypted data is on the two guys that were trying to kill him? Is there any information that was tipping them off as to where to go or what to do? Well, interesting. The fact is, I want to say this again. Since World War II, while men slept, while Christians were focusing on building churches, preaching the gospel, getting on TV shows and building mailing lists and evangelizing and doing all the nice, healthy work we do, kind of like what we do, there were dark forces that got into the CIA, into the FBI, into the Department of Defense. These forces that actually end up solidifying and manifesting in the 50 heads of the intelligence community that signed a document lying to the American people, saying Trump is wrong, and giving Biden the ability to say in a debate, we have 50 of our highest intelligent people that have dismissed these scurrilous allegations of your obsession with my son, my poor son's laptop. The reality is the government lied and conspired. Now's the time to find out who did it, why they did it, when they did it, and what they did. That's what's freaking them out. Now's the time when Trump can go back and say, they spied on me during my election. Let's go back. I think it's going to go all the way back to Obama's Oval Office. I think it's going to go back to Brennan and Obama, and an agreement made to set up the operation for surveillance of Trump's own private communications to try to link him with Russia somehow, to remove him as a threat to the deep state, the uniparty, the war party, the party where you have 6 years you're in, but once you're in the Senate, you're there for 18 years, and it's money, it's power, it's privilege, and it's the belief that they know better than you how to run the country. And Trump just said, no, the people know better, and I'm their voice. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't know where the time goes on our show here. It goes pretty fast, that's all I could say. I was going to try to get Whoopi's meltdown here. I got a new phrase. We had Trump derangement syndrome I introduced in the 2016. I'm going to go with the statement going Whoopi. When somebody loses their mind on the left, it's going Whoopi, because this girl's having a meltdown. But we don't have time for all of that. But what I can tell you is this. You don't want to miss tomorrow's show. You don't want to miss any of these. Because we're not just filling air now. We are mobilizing. We have a movement. The movement is active. The movement is moving. And I'm convinced that we have a brief window to mobilize our voices, our forces, our influence to be able to go through and do something significant. As an individual, there's a limit to what we can do. But together, we can move the needle in America, and that's our assignment. Over the next, I think it's 200 days before the midterms, we have to continue to build the firewall in the ministry, in the churches, in the podcast, in the influence campaign of shaping the American mind against the propaganda backlash that is inevitably going to come. I'm happy to say that this is a great place to be for Command Central. Mercedes, this is where they can go, and you can catch a hold of us on the lancewallnau.com/podcast.
There it is.
And I'm telling you, go to at Lance Wallnau on Twitter, because I'm going to be posting there along with Facebook and reading your comments. Reading your comments. I read what you say, and Mercedes and I are going to start actually sharing what you say on the show, because we love your comments, and some of them are very witty. And so let me sign off now, but don't miss tomorrow, because I know what's coming tomorrow, and so you don't want to miss that. We'll see you then.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.